Good morning. Today we're going to talk about what works for rural, how to strengthen your community and strengthen your hospital. First of all, small towns aren't going anywhere. We are told that small towns are dying, that they won't be around for long, that they're not even as important as cities. But they're wrong. And I can give you three big reasons why. First of all, farming and food production. Rural people play a key role in farming and food production. I know we've been hearing a lot about urban agriculture, turning your suburban yard into a vegetable garden, and many other, well, actually amazing products. But over 97% of all land in the United States is rural. The vast majority of our food is produced in rural areas by people who live, work second jobs, and do business in small towns. Small towns are the necessary support system for our food supply. Yes, direct ag jobs are declining as farms consolidate and increase productivity, but there's another side to ag. We're seeing more small farms, more organic production, more specialty crops, more exotic produce, more diverse plantings, more humane animal care, more local foods, more sustainable practices, and more farmers markets. Farmers no longer fall into just two groups, traditional versus non-traditional. Now farmers come in a much wider variety. There's a whole continuum of production methods as the people who manage farms and ranches make more conscious choices about every aspect of their operations. All of this is buoyed by the massive consumer interest in small and local. Buyers all over are asking more questions about where their food comes from, how it is produced, how it's cared for. While big agribusiness corporations will try and are trying to meet this demand, they just aren't what consumers are looking for. Small towns are in the best position to ride this wave of innovative food production. The second reason why small towns aren't going anywhere is energy and natural resources. Small towns actually play a key role in energy and natural resources. Think about all the different natural resources we depend on: water, oil and gas, timber, mining and minerals, wind power, solar power. Where do these resources come from? Rural areas. These natural resources are needed for all aspects of our society, business, and lives. They are also a focus of controversy, with concerns about extraction, damage, wealth sharing, and fights over resource scarcity and government limits on our use. Natural resources battles are a big negative, but there are positives to our natural resources as well. Recreation and conservation is the third thing. We play a key role in protecting our recreation and conservation areas. The natural environment is important to humans. We set aside areas to protect and preserve, from tiny city green spaces to huge national parks worldwide. Modern preservation takes people. All protected wild areas require people to build, maintain, and protect them. But we don't just build fences and never let people go in there again. Oh, hell no. We designate some appropriate uses. It might be recreation or even resource production. So we'll need people to be guides and helpers, and we'll need rule enforcers like the rangers. Now, where do all those people live? Certainly not in the big city. Then travelers headed to the parks will need gas and food and lodging. All kinds of amenities make it possible to enjoy that nature area fully and responsibly. Those businesses can't be in the big cities either. They're going to have to be in small towns. We rely on our farmers and ranchers to be good stewards of their land, providing habitat for wildlife and protecting the environment at all levels. I'm talking to you today, the C-suite folks, because you're going to be the change agents. You've already been trained and have become leaders. You're taken seriously in your communities. Today, I'm going to share with you about the idea-friendly platform, innovative rural business models, and rural job creation strategies. And yes, I'm going to make you ask to write down some things as well. Community development is extremely important and will help provide more access to health care. You'll learn how to work with your town, and you don't have to do all the work yourself. In fact, I advise against it. So what do you do? I know meetings, board meetings, more meetings. I know all about meetings. The meetings to plan meetings, the meetings to follow up on the last meeting, and the meetings where nothing gets done but the scheduling of the next meeting. I've sat in 5-hour board meetings month after month and left stunned, wondering what the heck was that all about. I've been the only one who read the minutes and rolled my eyes when others present said, give me a few, I want to go over these. The same with the financials. Well, you are businesslike. You don't have a lot of time to waste, and you don't have a lot of extra time outside of the board you already sit on. So why you? Why will you be the change agent? It's pretty simple. You can bring insights into these discussions that most other people don't have. You probably sit on boards like the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary, Economic Development, or Workforce boards, and they need you to step up and get the real party started. As people who serve on boards and commissions, what role can you play in changing your town? You have a real chance to influence the direction of those boards and commissions that most of us don't get. You are also very much doers. Let's just do this kind of people. If you can infuse new energy into your community and do one or two things you hear today, you will be making a shift in your town's thinking. Changing the trajectory of your town, if only by a degree or two, will bring you and your hospital to a new place, the place of growth, community, and connection. Right now, we're in the midst of an epic power shift. Trendwatching.com says we're in the middle of an epic power shift away from government, social organizations, and big business towards the individual. We're seeing regular people accomplishing big things with no formal organization, no structure, no officers in charge, no one to put the brakes on. The power to shape our cities and towns is no longer just in the hands of officials, but now in all of our hands. When we want to accomplish something, we don't need to form a new committee. We can just make it happen. So we in this room hold in our hands more computing power than all of government ages held 50 years ago. We hold more communications power, the ability to reach individuals and groups, to broadcast and to receive instantly, synchronistically, or asynchronously than all media companies held. And this is in the hands of private citizens, regular people. We have access to information that was unthinkable even 20 years ago. And we can access it at any time and anywhere. That's what's driving the shift in power. Let's talk about how we're used to doing things. You're familiar with this way. At a meeting, it's formal. Somebody's in control. There's a few people there who decide everything. It's usually isolated, close to the general public, and you have to make big, audacious decisions. Therefore, any kind of failure is bad. In fact, you make fun of people that fail, and thank God that you weren't one of them. Now let's look at the future. You do realize that the future is now, that it's here. Our towns, in order to survive, must step into the future. So your meetings now become gatherings, and they're informal. In fact, they're a little bit chaotic because everybody's doing something. There's a crowd there. Everyone's invited. And those ideas, you don't decide on ideas anymore. You test them out. You want to make sure they work. You might have to adjust them. It's okay. Failure is actually valuable in this situation. You're connected to each other and to others as well. And you're much more open, and you do small things. No longer are you doing big, huge, hairy projects that some small committee has decided on. In fact, you're doing small projects one at a time, working through it with your crowd, with your connections. The idea-friendly method is gather your crowd, build connections, take small steps. Sorry, cut that part out. It isn't about attracting others from outside. It's about developing the people who live here now and creating opportunities with the assets you already have. You work to make your small town a better place, not because it's going to attract some magical solution from outside, but because you will be improving your own lives and opportunities. So the idea-friendly method are gather your crowd, build connections, take small steps. These behaviors are actually the foundation. You gather your crowd with a big idea. You turn your crowd into a powerful network by building connections, and the network accomplishes the big idea by taking small steps. We waste an awful lot of our effort on maintaining the old structure when we have all these new tools available to us. How much of our time is currently spent in meetings, spinning our wheels and not actually moving forward? This new platform, Idea Friendly, applies to everything you do in your community and lets you break free of the old wheel spinning, wasting time model. Your culture of your hospital can only be changed through this Idea Friendly platform. We can't change where we live, but we can ourselves take some small but meaningful steps. Now let me ask you, are you personally shopping local? Is your hospital buying local when they can? Are you sharing with the town why you shop, where you do? That means sharing a few financials. Are you attending events in town? Are you sponsoring some of those events or at least participating in them? Are you spending time with your own staff asking about their needs in the community? How is the culture of your hospital? These are all questions you'll have to address if you haven't already. I actually aim to make it easier with the Idea Friendly platform. So to begin, we have gather your crowd, and you gather your crowd with a big idea, one that excites people and makes them think they can play a role in it. So the old way to gather your crowd, you would assign committees, and everyone in this room has seen those two guys sitting on a committee at some point or time. Everyone at that table is now on the subcommittee. You assign people to committees. Everyone at that table is now on a subcommittee, and they have to report back to you in 60 days with an action plan. You have to have accountability. Let's talk about the new way. You actually just plant a flag. You gather your crowd, planting a flag people can be drawn to. Now you can plant a flag online with social media posts or emails to groups, or you can plant a flag offline with signs, posters, and gatherings. Now, what is your flag? Maybe you just want to create a vibrant downtown, or you want to be part of the community, not the hospital on the hill. What do you actually want? What we know is that community happens when people talk to each other, and people like to talk to each other. They like to talk online, and they like to talk in person. When people, even people from different groups, sit down to eat together, they're going to talk to each other. When people build or create something together, they'll talk to each other. You know, gathering your crowd can be as simple as 3 people having a coffee and discussing how they can help their town. Now, an important distinction is that this means all people, not only those in charge or even those that think they are. And of course, not everyone will agree or be attracted to the flag you plant, and that's okay. They were never going to help you anyway. Maybe you would have assigned them to a committee, but they weren't going to do anything but complain if they even showed up. They were never your helpers to begin with. Now, we call these folks the committee of negativity. My advice, ignore them. What I want you to do now, we just talked about gathering your crowd. Think about what is the claim you want to stake on your town. What do you want most for your town? What would it look like if you had your crowd together doing it? What is your flag in the ground? So answer these questions. If our town had blank, if our town was blank, what is your flag? Write that down, and we'll take a few minutes to let you do that. Now, first you gathered your crowd with a big idea. Now you turn your crowd into a powerful network by building connections. You'll work on building your social capital. Bonding capital is working with people you know. Building capital is connecting people to resources, and bridging capital is meeting new people you would not meet in a normal day. All of those 3 elements compose your social capital. And when you build connections, you work on building your social capital. I ask you to be conspicuous when you're gathering your crowd. Make people curious, wondering, what are they doing over there? When you build connection, you are going to connect people to resources. I imagine you have more resources than the average person does. Use that Rolodex in your head. When you hear someone say, I wonder who knows how to do X, answer them. Because I know you know. That's one simple way to build connections. Let's talk about how it looked the old way. What would be the old way to build connections? We'd hold meetings with the same 10 people who are at all the meetings. We and those same 10 people would decide everything. If we need something from outside, we'd work our connections, meaning the old boys network, right? It's hard to get anyone new into a system like this. The new way is to share connections, to gather your crowd and not decide on which idea is best. All ideas work. Test, try, fail, recalibrate, try again. Those ideas that will work will rise to the top. Let's do a practical application that will make your town more prosperous. What if you could connect people so they can create more jobs in your community? When we apply that concept, build connections, to the new way of creating jobs, we get the rural jobs creation strategies. These are simple things you and your crowd can do in your town without a lot of work that will generate more new jobs. And you know that the more jobs, the more people who need your services and want to work there and support your facilities. So first, business resource nights. They're really great for business networking, job hunters, and the community in general. Why not host this at your location? You know, in Webster City, this is from a business resource night we did. Our chamber partnered with the University of Northern Iowa and Small Business Development Center, and annually they host a business networking event. They call it Entrebash. Consultants are invited to have their own table, and I mean lawyers, CPAs, SPDC, social media people, and attendees who are interested in starting a business or growing their business are invited to attend. They network with the people who they need help from and each other. One new business person shares their story of how they got started. There's food and drinks, and it lasts about 2 hours. Everyone in the 3-county area is invited. Let's talk about networking events. One of my favorites is coffee and calendars. It's a great way to connect. You invite all your organizations to come and have some coffee and bring their calendars. They then can share their events and work on maybe collaborating on some events, scheduling more on the same day but at different times, and perhaps even rescheduling. It's an opportunity also for them to share about what they do and spread the word of your events as well. Backroom tours. This one's actually in Waterford, Ontario. Imagine the kind of backroom tours you could do at the hospital. And this means inviting people in to see what's going on in your back rooms. The winery was a really nice fit. They got to taste a little wine. They got to see how it was made, things you don't normally see. You know, this is a fabulous way in town to see what really happens and then learn to cooperate with each other. So if you have a small retail store that sells clothing, go see their back room. Ask them to give you a tour. And imagine what's in that back room. I think you'd be surprised at how they decide which clothes to buy, when they shift it out, just all those secrets. But what it does is it starts to build a relationship between the two of you. Another option is take some online courses. Why not host classes for people who want to start their own business? My Own Business Institute is a free resource, as is the Small Business Development Centers. This is a magnet for community members, old and new, who would like to start their own businesses. You might be able to partner with your chamber, a local nonprofit, or the city to do this. And again, why not do it as a group in one of your hospital boardroom places? Co-working. This is up in Walla Walla, Washington, and co-working is really pretty simple. You need space, tables, plug-ins, and slamming Wi-Fi. Now, can you think of a place for this in your town or even in your hospital? Sales reps that come through town, students who need a quiet space, home workers who need to meet clients. There are many reasons that co-working works. Keith Nurden in Walla Walla saw the need for a co-working space. He wanted to work with young people, startups, and technology. So he created it. He gathered his crowd, talked to everyone, and took the small steps to get it started. There are links in the handout that you'll receive for the entire story. All right, here we go again. Get that pen and paper out. How can you connect people to each other? What ideas do you actually have? It is part of the Idea Friendly platform, and this is actually a place where you might really excel. You have access to more resources than the average Joe. So remember the questions. If our town had, if our town was, answer those 2 questions and tie it to how you can connect people to each other. Finally, the last step is take small steps. So you started gathering your crowd with a big idea. Then you turned your crowd into a powerful network by building connections. Now, you and that network are going to accomplish the big idea by taking small steps. Let's talk about the old way. You held meetings, there's my favorite word, and more meetings, and you planned and planned and planned and planned and planned some more. And it took months, if not years, to get anything done. And you can go look and see how many plans are sitting on the shelf of stuff that people wanted to do that never worked. Well, the new way is so much easier. Test it, review it, test it again, fail, try something new. Test, test, test. And we can move much quicker taking small steps. What about yourself? Have you ever told yourself not to try an idea because it might not work? This exaggerated risk of failure makes us hold ourselves back. We worry about people thinking we failed. We've been told no, and that's not how we do things here, and we tried that once so often. Now we can hear those voices in our heads telling us not to risk it, not to look stupid, and we swallow our best ideas. Do you think these kids are worried about failing? No, they just keep trying, testing, adjusting, and moving forward. When you apply the principle of take small steps to the idea that more people will benefit when they have the economic opportunity to do business, you get the innovative rural business models. When you support economic opportunity for all, you're really supporting the best possible future for your town. It starts with when you recognize that a business doesn't have to look like a manufacturer in the big building in the industrial park or a bricks and mortar store downtown. Think tiny. Tiny business villages, for example. Think trying things out. Think differently. Tionesta, Pennsylvania had this empty lot that was burned down. The building was burned down on it after a fire, and it sat empty for 10 years. Now, this is a town of only 500 people. Tionesta's Development Corp bought the lot and created a micro retail incubator. They brought in garden sheds, created a facade with 1800 styling, and made them available for rent, affordably, $50 to $70 a month. Their goal was to create healthy traffic downtown, spur new businesses, give them a chance to try it out, see if it would work, find them a new building to go into. They wanted to give a boost to current businesses and help clean up the downtown. There's now a waiting list here. The downtown stores have adjusted their hours to match this and cleaned up their locations and have seen a good jump in business. This market village has attracted a lot of attention and is now a tourist stop for people around Pennsylvania. Yes, that's that same lot. Think tiny again. This is just a trailer in a parking lot in Aberdeen, South Dakota. The owner converted it into a drive-through restaurant, and he came up with a great name, Nacho Business. All right, mobile, trucks, trailers, let people test business ideas on the go, and maybe string together multiple towns to build up enough demand to keep them going. The guy, when we went to get our nachos, said to me, I'm just a trailer in a parking lot doing the right thing. Temporary, second step, pop-ups, businesses that only last a day, a week, or a season while the owner gains experience, excuse me, and builds up assets. Even a booth at an event is a chance to test out a business idea. Why not have a pop-up fair? It builds enthusiasm. It showcases your downtown because you're going to want to do it downtown. It gives home-based businesses a chance to test out their business and it's great to partner with other events. Or maybe just simply hold a pop-up fair. These folks were having a great time, and look at all the people visiting them. And the pet store was open right behind it. This is in my town. Here's another together. This is actually in the Broken Kettle Wine Cellars in Akron, Iowa, population about 3,000. Together includes a store inside a store. Co-working also, maker spaces, shared studios, and galleries. They are sharing business assets and locations and also building connections. They bring in new customers, different customers, and expose each other of their businesses to new people. You'll see these kind of together stores in beauty salons, restaurants, and hey, maybe you could do this in your own gift shops. Most euros, traveling. Think mobile, trucks and trailers. It allows people to test business ideas on the go and string those multiple towns together to build up enough demand to keep them going. Mos Euros is located in Perry, Iowa, and he serves homemade Mediterranean food from his mobile truck. It is unbelievably delicious, and it was a local artist that painted his truck for him. Now, that popcorn is actually known as kettle crack. The business started in a yard, and you'd drive up to get your kettle corn. Then they got a mobile truck and made kettle corn right in the truck and attended many events and sold their kettle corn. Then they got permission from the city to set up on Sunday afternoons in a local park. Their next step was to buy a local coffee shop and add kettle corn into the mix. Now, they still have the truck, but now their kids run it in the summertime as a way to earn more income. And yes, those kids are all over 17. This is a perfect example of small steps. You want to create small steps where everyone can contribute. I have a friend who has rheumatoid arthritis and unable to go out very much. She's in her 80s as well. I quickly learned not to be fooled. She is an avid supporter online of many businesses and has a large network. This is a post she did for Tourism Currents, and she's brilliant at it. She linked a museum website into it. She shared it with the tourism people, and she put a picture in. You know, you may know somebody that could be able to do something this small, like share a Facebook post, and that's also meaningful too. The BJ Fogg methodology states that when motivation is low, small but meaningful steps continue to motivate people. We know there's going to be a few that jump in with both feet, but we also know that there are others that want to participate but don't have the time. Create a place where they can be part of the solution. And maybe something like distributing flyers, telling their friends, sharing a Facebook post, or asking the local church to put it in the bulletin. Now, get your pen and paper out. If our town again, what are the small steps you want to create around your flag in the ground? So if our town had blank, if our town was, what are the small steps we'll do to make that happen? The tour of empty buildings was an idea I had. I came to Webster City to interview for a job as the chamber director back in 2013. And as I was driving, didn't live there, so I was driving into town, I counted 14 empty buildings. Holy Toledo. And I knew my job would be to fill those buildings. Well, we showcased 12 empty buildings on a tour. We made posters, we put it all over the internet, we did radio, we did everything we could think of to do. We showcased those 12 empty buildings. We got some help from realtors, local realtors and owners, and local storytellers were in place in each building to tell the history. Within 2 years, 10 of them were filled and are still filled today. We also started an incubator project, making way for new businesses to try their business idea. And a group of people, just average schmoes, got together to save the local theater and raised $250,000 locally to do it. All because we had an idea and we took it to the community. Oh, that was a little too long. Okay, so you can see this is Nancy Kaiser showing off her deceased husband's law office. The incubator project was starting, making way for new businesses, and that's really pretty simple. The owner of this building agreed to charge no rent for 3 months and reduce rent for the rest of the year. So someone could come in that was ready to try their idea, and they'd moved up to trying it in a physical location. And a group of people got together to save the local theater. It closed my first week on the job. My first week on the job. How can you live in a small town without a local theater? Well, a bunch of people got together, ended up about 10 that spearheaded it, and the entire community stepped up. Not only local community members, but people that had lived there before, and actually raised $250,000 to save that theater and open it up again as a business with paid staff. So what are some of what are they doing that works? What are the hospitals and the people in your industry doing that works? The New York Times said, but the many successful hospitals, beyond providing an array of jobs from the bottom to the top of the economic ladder, also stimulate local spending and help attract new businesses that offer a stable of insured patients. I did a lot of research about rural hospitals before I came here. I truly have a much better appreciation of the pressures you're under, even though I really can't understand it. When I read the reports sent to me by the PPS of the top 20 hospitals, rural hospital winners, I was really inspired. And look, some of those are your neighbors and your peers. If you have a moment, I would pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, what's working for you? CEO to CEO. Dr. Suleiman and one person actually set up the clinic in Cleveland, Texas. It was a 40-mile drive one way for her, but she didn't care. They converted a flower shop downtown, and that became their clinic. She started seeing right away 40 patients a day. Her persistence, her drive, and her desire to live and work in a rural town actually created magic for that town. Let's take a look at Batesville, Indiana. And Mr. Putnam, this gentleman right here, got really good at knowing your market and knowing your community. In fact, he's the CEO of Mary Margaret Hospital. He's working to arrange for car rides for elderly patients because they have a lot of elderly patients. He's made a deal with a local bank to help new doctors with student loan debt to qualify for home loans. So instead of specialty surgery, the hospital has expanded their primary care to include a rheumatology program to treat that aging population. First, he got to know his community, knew his market, and then he went about making changes. Beatrice, Nebraska, the Community Hospital and Health Center. So for one example, it's one of a number of beneficiaries of a federal program that certifies rural hospitals as so-called critical access hospitals, allowing for better Medicare reimbursement rates as long as the hospitals meet certain conditions. I'm sure you've heard that. Mr. Summers, who took over in 2004, again, started by reaching out to the community and encouraging professionals and staff to take part in a local radio program. You know what he did that was really bizarre? He disclosed the hospital's financial information in the hopes that residents would feel like more like stakeholders in their local hospital. They worked on hiring more women doctors, a request that came up in a community phone survey. And they put up billboards that show nurses holding babies saying, "We deliver." You know, you guys are awesome. Great jobs, range of jobs, career ladders, opportunities for people in a small town to finding lasting career and to learn on the go. Those are the things you do. You know, if you look at a starting salary for the registered nurse is $40,000, I can promise you, you're not going to make that at $7.25 an hour working at the local convenience store. And you give opportunity to people in your community to move up the scale and have a real career opportunity. So what does it matter? Jobs, career ladders, a huge percentage of the local economy. For every month you stay open, you are holding up 20% of your local rural economy. Month after month, year after year, your facility is a pillar of that community. And you can leverage that position of leadership in a new way, helping build the connections that create jobs, helping make it possible for people to take small steps into businesses with the innovative rural business models and rural job creation strategies. These are all small steps that we know work. So instead, your town's future is being decided by the actions taken every day by all the people in your town, based on what they believe about your town's future and their role in it. You have never been more important or in a better position to make changes possible for you and for your town. Anybody have questions? Now, there was a lot of links and information in this presentation. You'll be able to find it at this link on the screen. It's also, the presentation will be available on the CHA app as well. And the link will be in there too. I want to thank you for your time today. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.